Welcome to Evangelicalish, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American evangelical church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. Join us for these episodes live on our Evangelicalish YouTube page on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 o'clock Pacific. Let's journey together.
Welcome to the show. Let me stop that from rolling again. And you guys, we're like a minute late, and people are already like on us. Like, where's the show? I guess it's good that everybody is that excited to be here. By the way, I'm Paul.
And I'm April.
And I'm Jeremy.
And this is Evangelicalish. We're in season 2. What episode are we on tonight? Do you guys know?
Oh, I think we're on episode 7.
I think that's accurate.
Nice. Well, very good. Glad you guys are here. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Yes.
We will talk more about Pride Month as we go along this month, but just to all of you from our LGBTQ plus, I like the flags, April.
Yeah, I got my pride flags.
Very nice. We love you. We affirm you, and are just happy to be able to say we love you just as you are, and God loves you too. So welcome to Evangelicalish. We have some great topics on hand as always. The world always is giving us plenty to talk about. And the Southern Baptist Convention didn't disappoint today. Big news. Russell Moore is out, not only out as president of the convention, or is it the conference, whichever one it is.
The ERLC, which is the legal arm or the policy arm of the SBC. So it's the Evangelical Religious Liberty Commission, and he is out.
Wow. And not only out of leadership, but out as a Baptist. He is like gone from the denomination, going to an Acts 29 network church, if you know anything about the Acts 29 church network, to be head pastor there. But he just said there has been too many things and sent out a long letter today, including a lot of pressure to cater to white Baptists, can I say? And because he stood tall in saying, hey, we need to join with our African-American church friends in mourning the death of Black men and other things. He said it's been a lot of pressure on him. It's been a tough year. And today he said, I'm out, and had stepped out of leadership and now stepped out of the denomination altogether. Jeremy, what do you think about all of this on the heels of Beth Moore stepping out as well?
Right. Real quick side note. I think I said Evangelical Religious Liberty Commission. That wasn't right. William corrected me. It is the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, which actually is part of my opening point here, is that I think it's really, really funny that he heads up the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, which is the policy arm for the Southern Baptist Convention here in the United States. It is fascinating to me that they have decided to go with, an ethics commission, and then they can't seem to find their own nose when it comes to ethics. They have constantly given Russell Moore issues, probably for the last 5 years. He has been hands down against the Trump presidency. He was vocally outspoken against the Trump presidency, even predating, candidate Trump, even predating President Trump. And he, has obviously made a stand as it comes to systemic racism, and made a huge stand along with several other pastors in the conference to, stand against the Confederate flag and any racist symbolism. I mean, he has been a great moderate voice in the Southern Baptist Convention, but he has constantly caught flack over and over and over, to the point where they actually created a committee
to investigate him just based on his policies and the fact that he was too liberal for them. And so now the SBC has lost not only Beth Moore, which, to be perfectly honest, is probably, since Lifeway
is the publisher, is owned by the SBC, is probably, well, she is definitely their biggest bookseller. So probably their biggest cash cow, right? And then now they have lost Russell Moore as well, which was like the only sane voice left in the room.
Yeah.
And so it is literally watching the Southern Baptist Convention implode on itself, and being somebody who kind of comes from that background. And Scott Russ says the SBC does not deserve Russell Moore or Beth Moore. And
Agreed.
that's 100% right, because they're the only sound voices that were left in the room. And you thought, and I'll throw Dwight McKissick in there, which is a little bit less known, but he's a black pastor from Texas, and he's absolutely incredible. But, you would think that would have sparked some progression on behalf of the Southern Baptist Convention. Mm-hmm. But the issue is that they have continued to stand firm, and even in places take steps backwards.
Yeah.
And it's been really difficult to watch, especially as somebody who grew up in that world and who served in Southern Baptist churches here in Oklahoma. It is a big thing that has tailored my outspokenness today. It is a big part of my church trauma personally, and we'll get into that later. But it is just really sad to see, because you feel like all the people who have any kind of valuable voice left are walking and running and sprinting away from the SBC because they've been alienated by the SBC.
I like what Patrick said in the chat. He said, when a white man named Russell winds up being the most liberal part of your convention.
That's a really good point.
That's so funny. So I read some of the letter. It's a very long letter. He actually wrote that in 2020. And I didn't read the backstory of why it was released today. I'm guessing Russell Moore was just had enough and was like, this is out there. But I mean, it's like a tell-all letter. I mean, he talks about being psychologically terrorized by people inside the SBC. Yeah. And I think to me, the most, not that it was shocking, because you see the roots, or you can see the racism in the denomination, but it's usually more subtle. But he says how some of the leaders in the SBC were neo-Confederates, that there were white supremacists that were going after him, many of them within the SBC. And there was one quote he said in there that, it was leaked.
It was leaked, says Ryan.
Hey, by the way, speaking of the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Abernathy checking in. He is the teaching pastor at West Metro Community Church. So
nice.
So he says it was leaked by an ERIC trustee, but I'm assuming that's an ERLC trustee.
Yeah, ERLC trustee. Yeah.
Okay.
How about that?
Well, that is more interesting suddenly. Well, so anyway, it's a very spicy letter. If you have time to read it, read it. I think the most surprising thing, one, he talks about how leaders wanted to cover up sexual assault by one of the victims, which is awful, but of course they did. And then, but the quote that was the most shocking to me was someone was talking about the new conservative resurgence, and they said something like, unlike the Civil War, the right side won this time. Alluding to that the South should have won the Civil War. These are Christian leaders of I think the SBC is still the largest denomination in the country. I mean, maybe that's dwindled now, but
it is. Yeah. It is still the largest Protestant church in the country. Obviously Catholicism still outweighs any major Protestant denomination, but yeah, it is. It's still to this day the largest Protestant denomination in the United States.
And one of the quotes that I liked in it was he said he has been told he needs to preach more to the rednecks and the Jim Bobs.
Oh, the Bubbas.
The Bubbas, yeah, that's right, because they pay the bills.
Yeah.
In the SBC.
That is such a common thread. And I have even been told at times in my positions, pastoring at, whether it be worship pastor, youth pastor, associate pastor at very traditional Southern Baptist churches, well, I understand that maybe this doesn't feel right biblically. Like I remember having a conversation with a pastor one time, my lead pastor saying, I know this probably doesn't feel great biblically, but we can't afford to lose this family.
Right.
And that is a major issue when you are letting dollars and cents define your decisions and your compass instead of scripture, instead of God, instead of his word, his character, his goodness. You are allowing money to drive your direction. And that is a scary thing. And I read that part as well. And it just made me sick.
And by the way, that's a hard thing not to do. I was becoming more convinced that we had, being Pride Month in a video I did this week, that we had a wrong perspective on our gay friends and our gay Christian friends and gay people coming to church. But it's hard that your staff goes, if you do that, these people are going to leave. They give a lot of money. How are we going to make payroll? And some of that's not even expressly said out loud, but you can see the fear in the eyes around you. And so for me, it was less of like making a choice of hurting somebody, but like, I'll just be quiet about it so we don't hurt people and run them off, not realizing by not speaking out, I was hurting people. So that money thing can be insidious sometimes in how it works in church leadership.
Go ahead, April.
I was just going to say, especially in the South where, conservatives are the majority here, if you're talking about nationalism, I mean, typically the more racist, misogynistic, and those types of theologies are more conservative theology. And I mean, I recently heard from a local pastor here who is completely against nationalism and doesn't like Trump, but can't say anything because he would lose his congregation.
Yeah.
And that's his livelihood. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish that thought. I don't want to cut you off by any stretch, but like, this is like my reality, right? Not currently. The church that I serve at right now is absolutely fantastic, but it has been my reality in my 20s, when I was a young guy serving in churches. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, April.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think there are more people that maybe deep down disagree with a lot of the stuff that's being done by the pulpit and by pastors and Christian leaders with racism, misogyny, and all that stuff, but they need the tithe money.
Yeah. And so, but like what is the cost of souls?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that has been my biggest issue with the American evangelical church for so long, is that, you know what? It doesn't matter who you are if you have a deep pocket. And it doesn't matter the attitude that you bring if you have a checkbook that you can put commas in. Like that, that is disgraceful to me, and not at all the ministry that we see Jesus living out. But I have watched in a church that I served at, I watched a man who was unfaithful to his wife with multiple women, and who was a hateful, horrible human to his wife. And she knew all about his affairs and his nonsense, but the church still affirmed him, wanted to put him in leadership positions because he could write 5-6 digit checks on a snap. And that's really, really difficult for me to understand. And so, it boils down into this thing with Russell Moore of like, I guess at some point, and it's kind of where I was for a long time with the SBC. Like, I see some of the good that exists inside of it. Okay. So for example, and I know it's probably not the best day in the world to defend the SBC. And I'm sorry, you guys had me kind of on my soapbox, but like, my issue is this. They do a lot of really good things. They send missionaries all over the world. They send missionaries here in North America. Those missionaries do great work. I have friends who work for the International Mission Board. They are fantastic people and do amazing things for communities around the world. I was once a part of the North American Mission Board as an at-home missionary. Like, I get it. Those things and those programs and that cooperative program money, which is their missions arm and the way they send people out is absolutely fantastic. However, It is always tainted. It is always broken. It is always messed up with this misogyny, with this bigotry, with this racism that continues to be predominant. And it finally just got to a point, and I think Russell Moore got there. I think Beth Moore got there. And I think I got there several years ago in looking at it and going, at what point do I quit fighting for it because it's unsalvageable?
Yeah.
It's not, and no matter what good stuff you bring to the table, it's too broken with all the other things to fix it. And that's been the issue. They broke it, and they are non-repentant. That's the problem. They are non-repentant of their sin. And so they think that it's okay. Like it took forever for them to pass a bylaw saying that they didn't want Confederate flags in their churches. What do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? That is so blatantly against the gospel. It is so clearly against the gospel. And it took them until like 2018 to get that right. So I guess for me, it's like, it's finally to a point where it's like, you know what? No, just put gasoline on it instead of water.
Ooh.
Jeremy, do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Well, I think we probably need to move on because we've got a lot to talk about tonight. But I just want to say, I do think that churches right now, SBC and even beyond, if you're looking at more mainstream Protestant denominations, I think they're at a crossroads right now. They can either cater to the people who are bringing in the money right now, which are the boomers and the older generations and the conservatives. And in the short term, it's better. But for the most part, millennials, Gen Z, and under are fleeing the church for the most part. So in the long game, they're not going to have, they're just going to die off. They're going to die a natural, slow death. So I think it's people choosing now. Do they want to reinvent now and lose in the short term, or just completely die off eventually?
The last funeral turned the lights out. The last funeral in the SBC turned the lights out, because that's where they're headed. This is nonsense to me. The fact that they just can't get out of their own racist, bigoted way and misogynistic way to just love God and love people. They can't do it. And so, you know what? I hope Russell Moore is the straw that breaks the camel's back, because it's been enough. It's enough. Yeah. You had chance after chance after chance after chance. You could have fixed it multiple times, but instead you just doubled down on your racism, doubled down on your misogyny, doubled down on your bigotry. And I hope Russell Moore chucking the deuces to you on his way out the door is enough. It has caused too much pain. It has caused too much church hurt. It has caused too much church trauma. And I haven't even began to discuss what it has done to the pastors and the leaders who have had to walk away from that denomination because of the pain they have experienced because of that world. And so, you know what? I pray desperately for Russell Moore and Beth Moore. I pray that they are okay. I pray that they get the mental health, professional help that they need, because guess what? When you walk out of that after being psychologically abused the way they were, you are going to need a team. And I pray that they have those people around them. I pray that they get the help they need, because those two are super powerful inside what is left of the semblances of the evangelical church. I think they have a strong and important voice, and I pray that God uses them as they step out, because guess what? It's not going to happen in the SBC. Gasoline, not water.
Also, Gen X and Zennials are leaving the church too. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave y'all out. They were correcting me in the chat.
Let me jump in for just...
Please do. Go ahead.
Daniel gave this comment that he's an evangelical pastor in rural Nebraska and has to wrestle with trying to move the needle versus losing his job. And I used to think pastors were the worst, dumbest people in the world till I became one. And so sometimes the question is it the leadership or is it the people sitting in the pews? And we have to be careful as the people who have sat out in the audience of a church at not saying, well, it's those guys, those guys, those guys. It was an issue of, well, if I really go after pushing the needle, do I lose the ability to minister to the people sitting in front of me? Because there has been a settling of a generation of the church, and in a lot of ways, and this is what the Baptists are having to fight with and a lot of other denominations, it is the boomers that finance those buildings and keep the staff in place, and the boomers who should be wanting to say, millennials, you're next, let us pass it to you, are saying, hell no, cater to us until we're in the grave. And so it's a very tough position to be as a church leader right now. So yes, pastors and leaders need to change, and particularly if you're protecting rapists and people in sexual assault, you should be in prison. I don't know how it is in every other state, but in California, if somebody told me something like that and I didn't immediately call the police, I go to prison for not calling the police. But hiding some of that stuff in the churches not only should send you to hell, but to prison as well. And but some other things, it's a little bit more of a nuanced conversation. And that's why ultimately I'm where Jeremy is. I think the whole thing has got to come tumbling down. And we know, as April was saying, in generations it will, but I'm done with it as of a couple of years ago. And
I think
it's unregenerate at this point.
I think the church, when we refer to the thing that Jesus was setting out, and we see happening in New Testament space as it was intended, and I think Ryan was on here just a few minutes ago, and he preached a really good sermon here a few weeks ago in a series we were doing called Imago Dei, in the image of God, and he preached a really good talking about how that the first century church was actually even a safe space for women, and drew in some like really great things that a lot of evangelicals skip over about women in the New Testament, that even Paul talks about inside the New Testament, empowering them and uplifting them in leadership of the church, right? Folks like Phoebe and other people like that we just, when you grow up in a conservative culture, you don't hear those things. I think the bride of Christ is still his bride. Now, I will say this. You cannot hate my wife and love me. You can't hate my wife and love me, because if you hate my wife, we have beef, right? So I think the church as Jesus intended it, the church the way that God intends it, is valuable and it matters. But American evangelicalism is a far, far, far cry from anything like that. It has become nationalist. It has become white, and it has become whitewashed. It has become all of these things that don't look anything like Jesus. So therefore, I believe passionately that it must drastically change. And so, and that's the reason I say gasoline instead of water. And that's the reason, I know, Paul, you say you're just done with it. And I understand that. I just believe that there is good in the community of the believer. There is good in assembling of believers and in like-minded, like-hearted people. But we have got to find those people, and we have got to start changing what it's about.
Agreed. House churches for the win.
Yeah, I would say now that thing meeting in the buildings on Sunday morning ain't the Church of Jesus Christ. It's the Church of White Jesus America, KJV, English-speaking Jesus.
KJV only, Nathan Rager.
We were going to do 3 15-minute segments, and that one was 25 minutes. So,
all right.
Tisk.
Let's come back for the next segment.
I will 100%. Are you loving Evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelicalish, or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelicalish podcast. That's right. You are listening to the Evangelicalish podcast right here on YouTube. And if you're listening later, you are listening on your favorite podcast platform. We're so grateful that you guys are with us this evening and joining us from wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. You can get us on all of those platforms. And so if you haven't yet, go subscribe. And if you don't know what your favorite podcast platform is, go to pod.co/evangelicalish, and you can hit the subscribe button. It'll give you a drop-down menu. You can pick any of those options, and you can subscribe there. We got landing pages on all of the major podcast platforms. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, you should definitely be a subscriber, and hit the like button. I see you guys dropping tons of comments tonight. We're super grateful for that as well. All right. House cleaning out of the way. I have to say this. This past weekend was probably, I've experienced some drama on the Tickety Talks before.
The clock app.
On the clock app. And some of it self-induced, others of it, from, external sources, right? This week, so after our conversation on deconstruction last week, we had kind of talked about like that I wanted a more edifying or building word up with that. And we had some good dialogue about that on this show just last week. Mm-hmm. And so I posted a TikTok about that, but as the TikToks are, they're only 60 seconds on the long end. I guess some of us can do 3 minutes now, but there's a time constraint. Mm-hmm. So I posted that same kind of thought process, trying to encourage and uplift and to build up the deconstructing, the folks in the deconstructing community. Apparently I did not communicate that well. And so it came across as though I wanted to word police, to take away, and to minimize, that word and what it meant to the community. And so I was met with a little bit of, kind of some unsurety from folks inside the community.
You got some pushback.
I definitely got some pushback. Yeah, for sure. And I was, I mean, and it was all really like, I mean, you guys know, but because we spend time outside of just this show, texting or, doing Zoom or whatever, you guys know my heart. And so you guys both knew that I was coming from a place of love and empowerment versus a place of, hate or suppression. Right. Mm-hmm. Also, so kind of what happened in the process was several people stitched this video, kind of added some thoughts, some people in the affirmative, some people, kind of against what I was saying, but namely Wayne Fellatoni, who, is a fairly large content creator here in our community, has almost 300,000 followers. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of brought to my attention, hey, you don't think about, or you didn't think about how this impacted. It's kind of like somebody who is not racist saying, well, I don't want to say Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. Right. And he's like, so at that point you are, and if you're uncomfortable with that, and he knew that I was, because I believe Black Lives Matter. Let's say it again, kids. Black Lives Matter. But he was like, if you're uncomfortable with that, then you have to understand that this is word policing, right? And this is, but he even said in that initial video, look, I assume you're coming from a good place, but this didn't hit the way you wanted it to, or whatever. So I took some time, probably about 24 hours. I had to weigh it out. I rarely skip a day on TikTok. I did skip a day this weekend on TikTok, in full transparency. I did not post on Saturday because I was trying to kind of weigh out my response. Part of my concern is that the word deconstructing has been thrown at me as somebody who is pretty vocal and has built a decent sized following myself on this platform. it has been thrown at me to ridicule and suppress my faith. It has been thrown at me and to ridicule and suppress my intelligence and my walk and my voice. And so it was always used negatively towards me. Oh, you're one of those deconstructing Christians, right? When truthfully, to be perfectly honest, I love Jesus more than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
More than I ever have. And so as I watched Christians try to tear me down with that, I was like, I'm not the one tearing things down. I'm trying to rebuild in the way that Jesus would have us rebuild. You're the one, American Evangelical Church. You're the one who's trying to tear things down. You're the one who looks nothing like Jesus. But my message didn't come across that way. And I think Wayne did a good job of kind of bringing that to my attention. And so he and I, we had that dialogue. We exchanged a couple of comments, and then I just prayed about it. I thought about it. And what I realized is that my journey and my walk in this is, each one of us have an individual walk in this journey.
Mm-hmm.
But for me to even come across like I'm condemning, which I didn't mean to, but even to come across like I'm condemning that word alienated some people in our community, and that is not okay. And so I owed an apology, one to which I gave.
Mm-hmm.
And the community was gracious, obviously, as you guys always are. You're amazing, and we love you. But it reminded me, and Wayne took that video as well and stitched it and said that he loves me and he's grateful for it. And, we had a good conversation, and it finished a good, complete circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me so much how much civil discourse is needed in our country, in our communities, and in our world. And so that's something I want to talk about tonight. I know that was kind of a long lead in, and I apologize. I'm not trying to monopolize tonight's episode. I really, really do apologize. But just that concept of how important civil discourse is. And I kind of want y'all's thoughts, not just about kind of what you saw transpire over the weekend, but just also on the general topic of civil discourse, because it seems to be missing from our country.
So first of all, I watched your video. We somewhat disagreed last week about the word deconstruction, but I watched your video, and then I saw Wayne Felton's response, and then your response, and then his response to your response. And I thought that it was really refreshing to see people who disagreed, even though I think it was over semantics, because you are fighting for the same thing. So you're pretty much on the same side, but it was refreshing just to see the civil discourse. And I told you this offline, but I think for the deconstruction community, that word, for me, it's super annoying that I see all these pastors and other Christians on TikTok taking that word that was our word for as a way to heal and as a way to deal with our own religious trauma and with our own faith journey, that they're taking our word and then using it, like you said, as a weapon against us.
Yes.
And so I know that there's a lot of people that think of that word as something negative, just like they think of progressive Christian as something negative. But the idea, if you're a conservative Christian, then that's like the true Christian in a lot of people's minds. But it really pisses me off how the church with the capital C can't just let anything live without getting their hands in it.
They want to kill it.
Let us, right, because it makes, and I get it, we're calling a lot of stuff out in the church. It's uncomfortable. If you're in the church and you actually listen, you have to wrestle with a lot of crap that you're currently either ignoring or just blissfully ignorant. But I just, and I think your timing of your post was just really bad too, because I saw a slew of pastors.
It's so true.
Because last week especially, I felt like there were more and more pastors and other just really conservative Christian people on TikTok like calling out deconstruction people and being like, you don't need to deconstruct, like you need to get back to the cross, like you never talk about the cross. And
full transparency there, full transparency there. And I shared this with April earlier, and I want to share this with our audience too. I have been so busy at work, like in my day job, that I have not watched TikTok. Like I haven't had a chance to just kind of intake some of the things going on in our community or whatever. So I had not seen that. And so I was like, oh, this was a really good because I was struggling for an idea for a new video. In full transparency, I was like, I don't know what to post about. And then I was like, oh, that was a really good conversation. This will be a good, like, quick take on something that really hurts me, but also empowers those that I'm trying to empower, you know, those who have been disenfranchised and hurt by the church. I was like, oh, this will be good. Like it's got a good curveball to it or whatever, right? It was horrible timing. And I had no idea. So word to the wise, watch TikTok for like 20 or 30 minutes. Like just scroll through your For You page for a hot second before you decide to come up with a video content idea, because it could really bite you in the butt.
And I think deconstruction is a good word because there are some things we have to tear down. There are some tenets that need to be broken down. So we can, I think, go forward where God is. But, Yankee was a pejorative term, and Americans took it and said, okay, call us Yankees, we'll be Yankees. Queer was a put down term that the LGBTQIA plus community now said, okay, you want to call us queer? Cool, we'll wear it. And I'm sort of there, I've tried to really avoid being called liberal or progressive because it just gives people a chance to write you off. And now I'm like, call me a pink, purple polka dotted elephant if you want. I don't care, because I'm just going to do what I do. But the beauty of what you did, Jeremy, was I saw the first video. I commented on it. We're friends, and I tried to give it, my gentle answer of disagreement, and
which you did well with. By the way, I read your comment, and you did a good job of.
Yeah, well, thank you. But then when I saw your response, your next video, I was like, perfect. I mean, that's what we need to do is like, hey, I'm not going to change my stance necessarily. I may still disagree with you, but I'm going to disagree with you in a way that we get to continue the conversation. And if my disagreement, the way I presented it, hurt you, that matters. That matters. And that's what I saw in your response, which was so, so beautiful. And I was just like, this is the way it can work. And I even had a conversation with one of my commenters that was flaming about abortion. And she said something really interesting in the middle of insulting me. And I said, hey, I'm going to do research on what you just shared. Can you stop insulting me so I can actually get back to you and we have a conversation about this? And she responded with, wow, I've never gotten a comment like that from somebody I was kind of having that back and forth with. And she said, can you just forgive me for the things I've said and let's go forward in conversation? So sometimes it's really hard, but I think there is a space out there if we say, okay, we really disagree, but I still care about the content of your character. And the Bible says a gentle answer turns away wrath. I'm not going to come in agreement with you about evil stuff or really wrong stuff, but I can still have a conversation around some of these things. And I just thought, Jeremy, what you did was fantastic. So thank you for the humility that you showed there.
I also think it's interesting too, though, because you and Wayne and the other people that stitch you, we're kind of all in this deconstruction or whatever you want to call it community. So our values are similar. We're in a similar space, whether we're saying the same thing or not. So I feel like it probably was easier to reconcile at the end of the day because we could have that civil discourse because we had so much in common. I think it's a lot harder to have civil discourse with someone who is not in that space with you. Like, I mean, I currently don't know how to talk to some big Retrumplicans. Like if someone's not willing to meet you halfway and like have a discussion about whatever it, like if you can't look at facts and if you can't look at data and if you can't look at what's right in front of your eyes without name calling, like I don't know if that's possible.
I think if the conversation starts with, by the way, thank you both for your kindness. And I've seen several folks in the comments. By the way, apparently my name is Jerome now, somewhere in there. But I've seen several folks in the comments talk about that they appreciated my response. And I'm super, super grateful for that. I just think that's how Jesus would be. I think kindness and compassion for one another, because while that word, April, you alluded to this earlier, and I kind of talked about it in the beginning as well. While that word has been used to degrade me and has added to my church trauma, which we heard a little bit about. Apparently I snapped in the first segment, but while that word has added to my church trauma, and while I don't want to be known by anything other than just somebody who loves Jesus, if I die and all they put on my tombstone is he loved Jesus, his wife, and his kids, I'm good with that. Yeah. And so while I'm super, super grateful for that, I just want it to be said, the thing that I wanted is that from day one, this platform has been about empowering those who have been hurt and broken and disenfranchised by the church. It's the whole reason I got on TikTok in the first place. It's the whole reason I started speaking out. It's the whole reason the three of us connected. It's the whole reason that I believe in this community. And if those things are the case, and you say something that hurts people inside the community, if you love these people the way that Jesus does, if you believe that they were made in the image of God and that they're good and that God loves them the way they are, then you owe them the respect, the love, the kindness, and compassion to say, you know what? This word has hurt me, but I know it empowers you. And I see you and I hear you, and what you're saying matters to me. And we can be okay together in that space. And it felt good. It felt good, even through the hurt of the 48 hours leading up to that. It felt really good. But I think when it comes to good civil discourse, I think sometimes we jump to a third date conversation with people. In other words, we want to get into conversations with people and immediately hop to religion and politics, which are the two things you don't talk about, right? And it's too often we premise our thoughts on people based on those conversations. Here's what I would say. If we spent more time getting to know people and how they tick and the things that drive them, then we would be a lot more willing to build relationship and pour into those people than if we just immediately jump into the things that divide us. For example, my neighbors across the street fly a F Biden flag in their yard. Huge. It's an American flag, and right underneath it, on a probably a 20-foot flagpole. And and the top one is an American flag, and right underneath it, it's an F Biden flag, right? If my initial conversation was, hi, I'm that pastor from Oklahoma. Go check out my TikTok. We are not going to get along, right? If that was my initial conversation with them, nothing would have ever gotten done. But I've just been a good neighbor to them. I've just loved on them. Actually their granddaughter came over and played with my kids the other day, and we watched her. And so one day this week, the wife was like, hey, you like that flag, don't you? We've had some people calling the cops about it, but Trump 2024 or whatever. And
no.
And so I just looked at her and I said, I don't like that flag. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I just don't like that flag. I was like, we have different values. And she goes, well, but you're always so kind to us. And it seems like you like us. And I said, I like you. I love you. Actually, I told her, I said straight up, I love you. but I don't think you're seeing the hurt that this causes.
Yeah.
And it actually opened a conversation, because what I built it on initially was not the fact that I knew, because when I walked, there was no missing it. We did not agree. But I built it on the fact that they were people who deserved to be loved because they were still made by God. And it actually opened up some really good conversation. And so I think civil discourse has to happen when we relationship build, and when we're willing and we walk in with humility, and our way doesn't have to be the thing that we pound people over the head with. Because let's be honest, the reason that a lot of us have stepped back from the American evangelical church and pushed back against it and deconstructed from it, or whatever space we're in that, the reason that we have pushed so hard back against that is because they took a Bible and they beat us over the head with it, and they said, these are the things that we believe. And that felt unhealthy and unsafe. Yeah.
Did they take down their flag?
Their flag is still there. So,
just wondering.
No. That's a fair question. That's a fair question. I did bring up the fact, I said, and another reason that I don't really like it, I said I wasn't sure, because a lot of people know that I'm kind of outspoken about this stuff. And she was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. She goes, where could I find you? And I was like, nah.
Block her quickly.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is a time to just say about somebody, you're an asshole, and I'm blocking you. The block on TikTok is a wonderful.
Oh, it's so good. I tell people all the time, I have more people blocked on TikTok than follow me on Twitter. But like,
and by the way, because sometimes what we do, and this has happened to me in talking about religious trauma, is we say, go back and make it right. It's like telling the abused, go to your abuser and fix it, instead of saying, no, there's a time where relationship just has to be cut off, because there can be no relationship built on that foundation.
Yeah. Well,
that was like I think we all got tagged on that one today, where I was saying to the guy, listen, if the choice is either I'm in the church or I'm worshiping myself, that's a non-starter for me to have a conversation. I'm not starting and trying to convince you that I'm Christian enough to not be worshiping myself.
And that was one of those pastors that was going after deconstruction people last week.
Yes,
too.
he was.
So I bet the next time you see your neighbor, Jeremy, she's going to come up and call you a baby killer.
She won't. Her granddaughter was over at our house, and maybe she's just being nice to get free babysitting. I don't know, but but she's super kind. I mean, they have been kind, and continue to be kind even after that conversation. Because she asked me straight up. She goes, "What, did you vote for Biden?" I was like, it's kind of what I'm known for. No?
The claim to fame.
I got TikTok famous for that.
I got TikTok famous for freaking voting for Joe Biden. But I think that it has started the conversation. And one thing I added to her was I was like, I have a director to your MySpace page.
Scott has a really good suggestion.
Anybody
there.
to go
director to
my
your MySpace page.
Oh Lord, I'm gonna have to see if that still exists, because I know MySpace is still. Oh my God. But I told her, I was like, I have a 7-year-old who's like trying to read every sign in the world right now, because she thinks reading is so great, and I was like, this is not a good look. And she was like, yeah, I didn't think about that. And I was like, well, you should, but it was good civil discourse. It was a good conversation where she heard that I was saying, I don't agree with you or your perspective. I don't agree with your political stance. But I still care about you. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing that I would say to all of our listeners, and to us as a whole. To remember that even if people are jerks, even if people are horrible, our call is still to love them. Now, I may need to love you from over here because you may be toxic, and that is totally true. Some people just desire to fight with you and be hateful and bigoted towards you, and that is totally understandable. But I will love you from over here. But there are people who are willing to have conversations. She literally legitimately asked me. She was like, "So, do you really think and asked me honestly, do you really think Donald Trump was racist?" And listen to me respond to that question.
Well, that's good.
So I think, what I think it is I think it takes time. And those are things in our culture that we don't want to always give. We are people who want immediate gratification. We want instant gratification. And we want people who just automatically agree with us on the biggest topics every single time. And we have to be willing to give time. We have to be willing to build. We have to be willing to remember that we have to love people. But if you're toxic, I'm gonna love you from over here. So there you go.
That makes sense. The chat's been cracking me up. They said you should put her in your top 8 on MySpace.
I should.
Anyway,
I hope I find her.
We are so over time on that one again, which I literally told my husband, like, yeah, we're gonna do 3 15-minute segments. He's like, no, you're not. I was like, yeah, we're probably not. Okay, well, do we want to just roll into the next topic, or do we want to go to a break?
Let me hit the mid-roll, baby. We've got it. So
all right, do the mid-roll.
Go for it.
Are you loving Evangelical-ish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelical-ish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelical-ish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelical-ish podcast.
Welcome back to Evangelical-ish. It's been a long time. It's a quick mid-roll. Okay, so we could make this quick because, we've gone at length before talking about GOP hypocrisy, and they are at it again. The Senate blocked, the House passed. So there were 35 Republicans, I think, in the House that passed the January 6th commission to just investigate all the things around January 6th and that whole attempted coup, insurrection, whatever you want to call it. And the Senate Republicans blocked it. And do they have amnesia? I keep seeing all these people saying that Biden has dementia, but I think the GOP has amnesia because suddenly things that they said back in January are not what they're saying now. They're saying, oh, it wasn't that bad. It was just a few patriots showing their love for America. It was like
just a tour.
Yeah, it was just a tour. They were so kind and calm, and it was fine. Nobody died. People did die. But yeah, and Mitch McConnell, who for a split second during the second impeachment of Donald Trump, because reminder, everybody, Donald Trump was impeached not once, but twice. Mm-hmm. Okay. And after Mitch McConnell refused to vote in favor of impeachment, but afterwards he gave that scathing speech against Trump and was like, he was definitely responsible and I didn't vote for it because, I don't have a backbone, but I'm going to give this really, harsh speech to say how much I don't like Trump. And then now he's like, no, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. People didn't die. So what the crap, GOP?
Or GQP, as some people like to call it.
That's yeah. I guess I'm great because I got content. There was no insurrection. Nobody died. So it gives me content for TikTok, but my gosh.
I don't think I've
every
ever
time
seen that
I'm like, oh,
time.
They're not. I know.
So this is the party that when Barack Obama was president said, we don't care about anything else other than making Barack Obama a one-term president. Kevin McCarthy, who's from Bakersfield, right down the road from here, wanted to be Speaker of the House, and his case that he made for him being Speaker of the House is, we hung Benghazi on Hillary Clinton. We did that. I did that. This is a party that has become not about ideas, not about anything that can help anybody. It is completely about political power. They don't care about the country. They don't care about helping people. It is completely about keeping power. And this January 6th commission thing is 100% their fear that if we continue to talk about January 6th, extend it out, and truly find out what Trump did, the day of and the Republicans didn't do anything about it, it will kill their chances of taking over Congress in 2022. 100%. It is completely a political decision that they know is bad for the country, that they know we're talking about a 9/11 commission here, not even the impeachment process. This is a totally nonpartisan, separate commission to study really what happened. This is not a political event, but it's a 100% political decision by the GOP. And I hope people will recognize that and remember it and make them pay for it in 2022, because it's clearly a party that is only about a shrinking minority supporting them and trying to find ways to rig the system and be in power.
Speaking directly to leaders here in Oklahoma, if you want to pretend, and you know who you are, if you want to pretend that you are supportive of people of color in our state and that you are about bringing history and knowledge to things like the Tulsa race massacre.
Yeah.
And you do not support the January 6th commission, shut up. You were lip service.
Yep.
Point blank, period. I can't take you serious. You're just giving lip service. And we have had that issue. And it's really sad. My congresswoman, who is newly elected. So we flipped the Oklahoma House District blue in 2018 in a midterm. First Democratic Oklahoma congressman or woman in my lifetime. I know that. In 2020, she was unseated by a state senator who, caught the Trump wave here in Oklahoma. Somebody really needs, and she has, our new Congresswoman Bice, has fallen right in line and refused to support a commission to review and to investigate January 6th. Somebody from the left needs to run against her. Somebody needs to stand up against that. And somebody needs to ask her why she doesn't want the best for our country, and why she would allow a sitting president to create a coup and an insurrection.
Ooh, could that somebody be you?
Hello.
You don't have to answer.
Let's get the close-up for that.
I don't feel comfortable answering that at this time.
That's fine. That's fine. You'd be good, but
maybe.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of oh Lord. He's
Jeremy for Congress.
That has definitely been a oh Lord. Yeah, I probably should have brought this up.
I brought it up technically.
That has been a conversation. And
cool.
You've already got a constituent.
Yeah, there you go. Jeremy the Beast in 2022 features it.
That was my nickname in high school. Jeremy the Beast. No, I'm kidding.
Was it really?
No.
Oh, because that's just your like bad dude revelation nickname from
the Congressman Jerome. Oh my God.
It's amazing to me though that this is God's party. The party of Christians because of abortion, and this is what it's become. I mean, it is an anti-Christ party. The spirit of it is the opposite of who Christ is, and it's time for us to stand up and say no, thank you.
Down with the GOP. Oh my gosh, that just reminded me of that DC Talk song. Do y'all remember?
Down with the DC
Talk.
Down with the DC.
Down with the GOP. We can bring it back.
Thinking of a way to explain.
Oh, here we go. Jeremy, that politician from Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh. I would have to change. I would do it.
that politician.
Hi, I'm that congressman from Oklahoma. Yeah.
You know, the one that voted for Joe Biden.
The one that voted for Joe Biden.
You're right to change
And
that.
Then you can change it to that one that voted for myself.
Yeah. The one that voted for me.
For me.
I've gotten several phone calls. I've had, it has been a building conversation in the last week, which is really weird. And all out of TikTok. Imagine that.
TikTok. Okay. Well, Jeremy, you should run for Congress. Down with the GOP and DC Tucks thing. And of course, they're positive. I'm thinking of it negatively. The GOP sucks.
In my head now.
That's like the gist of it. They are flip-floppers and hypocrites currently, except for Mitt Romney and the few others. I do like him.
Liz Cheney. Don't forget my girl, Liz Cheney.
A few of them have some backbone still.
And Ben Sass, right?
Ben Sass, Lisa Murkowski, I think Susan Collins. There are a handful of others.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're like the deconstructing Republicans right now, like standing firm, probably about to leave, but maybe not.
The President Biden called out his own today, though. He called out Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema today. So he was saying he said we've got a couple that vote more often with the Republicans than they do the Democrats. And
speaking of civil discourse,
direct shot at his own.
The congressman from Oklahoma who voted for that pastor from Oklahoma.
The congressman from Oklahoma, formerly that pastor from Oklahoma.
Politics, TikTok. I listen. I've been really interested. I'm Jeremy, and God, you people. I love y'all so much. And let me only partially claim Ben Sass. Yeah, it just depends on the day. But I have wanted to run for office for a long time. I've done some work on some campaigns, and So I mean, it's really interesting that it's kind of like kind of a really good opportunity. But I don't know. Y'all will be the first to know. I'll say that. If I'm going to announce my candidacy.
Ooh, here's my pitch, okay? And then I'm going to move on to hate comments. At our Evangelicalish conference, we'll set up a step and repeat that says Coleman 2022, and you can announce your candidacy at our Evangelicalish conference, wherever it may be.
Just stop it. Oh my gosh. That would
come full circle.
Yeah, that would be kind of fun.
Okay. Let's move on to our hate comments of the week. To hate comment of the week. I feel like we need a jingle or something.
We do. You could sing one. I like it.
So if you're new to Evangelicalish, every week we pick a hate comment because we are never short of them, except for the week I was banned, although I still wasn't short of them.
Yeah.
So as we make content on TikTok and other things, I actually got a hate comment on Instagram this week, which was a first. I was like, oh, okay. We read our favorite hate comment of the week. It's simple. It's fun. It's kind of like mean tweets that Jimmy Kimmel does. It's our hate comment of the week. So, Paul, what was your hate comment this week?
Well, usually I get one from somebody with a semi R to X rated name, but not this week. It was just from
no whiskey dick this week.
No whiskey dick this week, or what was it, T-sack or something last week.
I'll never not laugh at whiskey dick.
This is from QAZ 337433. He says, "People like you preach the gospel of the devil to people and have no used to them," whatever that means, "have no used to them whatsoever. You spit on them with wickedness and lies." I mean, I could almost hear Will Ferrell saying this. You live on a bed of spit and lies.
You live on a
Oh my goodness. That's
if you've ever seen the movie Elf, he's like, your life is a web of lies, he says to the Santa Claus.
So not only are you spitting on them, but you're spitting wickedness and lies.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not empty saliva. There's some juice in there.
The gospel of the devil, my friend.
That is some powerful spit.
Nasty. That's gross.
Have you ever thought about just like the literacy of some of these comments, though? Of like, that doesn't even make sense. But anyway, Jeremy, what was your hate comment this week?
And that's why I'm the false prophet.
Yes.
Oh man, I just lost it. April, you go real quick. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. So mine was I made a video yesterday. I think I posted it yesterday, calling out. Speaking of, we talked about persecution earlier, but there's been like a slew of videos again this week of conservative Christians being like, "Oh my gosh, like we're so persecuted. The left hates Christians. They're anti-God and anti-Christian." So anyway, I made a video being like, "No, you're not," and whatever. So I got a comment on that video where I'm saying we're not really persecuted. The only persecution or hate that I've gotten, not really persecution, is from Christians. That was my whole spiel. And so First Amendment Prolific commented, and bear with me because it's a lot of buzzwords like in one run-on sentence. Intellectually elitist, glorified babysitter teaching kids how to be a proper communist and racism, gender-twisted woke sheep says we are in a cult.
Wow.
So glorified babysitter teaching kids how to be a not just a communist, but a proper one. And racism. Gender twisted woke sheep says we're in a cult.
Gender twisted woke sheep.
I don't know what that means, but I was like, when I got it, I was like, this is a beautiful comment.
I feel like never mind. I'm not going to say that out loud. I was gonna.
And isn't it gender bending? Like no one says gender twisted. What am I just like doing the twist?
This idiot does.
Gender twisted woke.
That was good, April. That caught me way off guard. I just glanced up as you were like
doing my gender twist.
Doing your gender twist.
I have a gender and I can twist.
I keep wondering, what is it with Christian trolls and gender stuff? Because I get that a lot. Like, oh, you must be homosexual. You know, you're for abortion, therefore you must be homosexual, or you must be a pedophile. I just keep thinking, like, man, you guys protest too much.
It doesn't make any sense.
There's something underneath all those pedo comments we get from Christians.
The only thing that I agree with that comment is that I say that they're in a cult. I do think they're in a cult. So
I just have way too often, Paul, you kind of glanced on something that I think is a really good point. I have only way too often had pastors like stand up and like really harp on things to only find out later that it was like they needed to hear that.
That's true.
It's like, you pedophiles, you child pornographers or whatever it is. Like, oh, yeah, but maybe you should have took your own advice. You nasty, go away.
That's true. It is true.
So people are now calling for, they want gender twisted woke sheep on a t-shirt.
That could be our first. That could be our first.
Some swag.
Merch.
Yeah, we could do some merch. I've been working on some merch.
Sheep.
Gender twisted woke sheep. No one, if you see that t-shirt, if they're not involved with this, they'll be like, what the F does that mean? What is a gender twisted?
What's a gender twisted woke sheep?
You know, speaking of the boundaries, if somebody uses the word sheep or research in a comment to me, I'm not responding. That's, you know, those are the words I'm just like,
do your research, sheep.
Do your research.
They
which
just
means
have all
go
the buzzwords.
Go to the extreme right-wing nutball websites that I go to.
Or this one.
Don't you read Breitbart?
Yeah.
Just you wait. The storms are coming.
Just you wait. Yeah. There's the day of judgment. Yeah.
Jeremy, do you have your hate comment now?
Yeah, which kind of goes along this lines. Backwoods 1980. Who has no profile picture, by the way. I know you're
Backwoods 1980.
That is his name. Their name. I don't know if it's a him or her. I guess, you know, she could also be Backwoods. But they said, you are the people the Lord spoke of in the last days. You should be ashamed to get on here and say the stuff you say. You're a devil.
Oh,
yeah. And so, I super wanted to respond to be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm the beast. But so one of my followers responded, backwoods, huh? Appropriate.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love when TikTok does what TikTok does.
Don't you love it when your followers jump in and start fighting for you?
That's
the
my
worst-
favorite thing. Like, I don't have to debate these people anymore. I have people that do it for me.
I also had real quick before I finish this. I also had a moment where I realized like the power, right? Like, which sounds crazy, but like I called out a person on their comment, like tagged their comment and responded with a video, right? Or responded to a comment with a video, I guess is probably the more accurate way to say that. And this unfortunate individual could not figure out, because most of the time, like when you do that and you call somebody out, they immediately delete their comment like a coward. Oh, you don't want to stand by this now because you just got called out, right? This person couldn't figure out how to delete the comment because it was apparently somebody who
was probably
on TikTok, but a little bit more like a Facebook person, right? And so,
that's a good way to say it.
And was literally responding to so of course, and our followers do this, right? They'll click, say see comment, and then just go ham on somebody, right? And this poor person was responding with like, can you guys just tell me how to delete this comment? They were like, not now. And they were just like hammering. This person deleted their entire account.
Oh,
and I just realized like, and the comment was pretty sketch. So I don't feel horrible about it, but it reminded me like, man, maybe now that I've gotten to like this certain point, I need to be careful like who I respond to with a video because it just drags them out kind of into the town square. But
you're nicer than me. I don't think about it. If someone calls me the Antichrist, I'm doing a little dance.
I don't know. I gotta remember like some grace in those moments.
Oh my gosh. I had somebody firing at me the other day and I fired back and the person said something really wrong about a historical fact and I flamed him hard for it. And the person came back and said, look at you jumping on me. I'm just 13 years old. And I'm like, oh, crud.
That's hard.
Like, yeah. First, I'm like, why, you little shit? Why are you coming at me in the first place? But
there it is.
Now we're
explicit button tonight.
Now we're explicit.
We had whiskey dick earlier, but now we're for sure there.
I felt so terrible. So I'm like,
Jeremy,
oh my gosh. I had no idea.
I was going to tell you, you'd be proud of me. Last week after you got raptured, I cussed on the show to make it full on explicit. I sure did. And if my mom's watching, I apologize. She was like, why do you have to cuss? She's so sweet. But
funny.
But yeah, no, I did it.
So backwoods 1980. So my person, my follower responded backwoods, huh? Appropriate. Backwoods 1980 responds with, did you ask your husband if you can post the stuff you're putting out? Just be quiet.
Oh,
I got one of those
responded to my follower. So
I get those comments all the time.
I think that, I'm sure you personally get those comments. So I will be responding in a video soon. And I hope they have to delete their account.
You know what was weird? I don't get a lot of hate DMs, but they usually are.
I don't get hate DMs at all. I think people are afraid to do that.
So I've gotten a few. I had some guy message me that was like, you love your gay brother more than God. And I was like, he told me that God told him to tell me that. And so I was like, no. And I kind of went off on him. But I got a message last week from, I don't know who it was. But all it said, the entire message just said, dipshit. It was like, someone took the time to go to my profile page, to click message, to just write out that, and then sent it.
By the way, I think I got the same message, or it may have been the same guy. Then he came to my page.
Oh, he's like a mass
dipshitted me.
Dipshitter.
Yeah.
He's a mass dipshitter. I don't know if we want that said.
Oh my goodness. Patrick says, I'm a boomer. What's a DM?
Direct message, Patrick.
Direct message, a private message.
Yeah, which, by the way, my direct messages, my DMs are wide open for any of you who want to throw something in there. I try to get to as many as I can, but they're deep, but they are open for anybody. So we don't have to be mutually following one another.
I get beautiful stuff in the DMs. Beautiful.
Yes.
Stuff.
Man, they're
I do
incredible. The DMs are my favorite. You know, and a part of it though is like it's hard to respond to everything because I get a ton. Patrick said that was a joke. Okay, way to go, Patrick. But I get like a ton, and most of them are like really in depth. And so when I open one, I want to spend time articulating a response because that person spent a lot of time for me. So if you've ever sent me a DM and I haven't immediately gotten back to you, I super apologize, but just know I'm kind of working my way up, and I'm in the middle of like April somewhere. So
before we go, I have to give a shout out to my husband Beecher, who's Beach Squad, in the comments because he had his first viral video on TikTok today. Yay! I'm like a proud parent, but I'm not his parent because I'm a spouse. But yeah, and then he wrote in the chat, he announced it to remind me. He was like, "You gonna talk about me tonight?" I was like, "Maybe." He said he's gonna start a rival deconstruction podcast.
What's his TikTok handle? Give him some pub.
Oh, his TikTok handle is at @BeeChipper. BEE Chipper. His name is Beecher, so B Chipper.
Oh yeah, he got 18,000.
He's only got like 250 followers, so that's big. That's big.
That's huge. I see that. I see you, Beecher.
Yep. So anyway.
Good stuff, guys.
320 followers now.
Ooh, he's gone up.
Yeah, he's gone up because he has a viral video.
He's been getting some hate comments, and I've been so proud.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Listen, you know you made it when you get hate comments, right? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. So that's really good. 18,000. All right. I hope he hits TikTok creator fund level as well. What is that? What was the number? Like
10K, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. He'll get there.
I hope
one day.
It's so long ago since we've been there. We don't remember.
God, that sounds horrible.
I remember 10K. That's so cute.
I was about to follow that up with something that sounded worse. That I was trying to make it better and be like, man, I hit it so fast I don't remember what that number was, and that sounds even more hideous. So I'm gonna walk right by that, and yeah, I'm not that cool. So I still did the dishes and cooked dinner tonight. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for being here. It's amazing chat as usual. Good conversation. Excited for next week.
We even got an F-bomb dropped in the comments today. So thank you all for contributing to the show.
The Lord's work.
All right. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Yes.
Always honored. Thanks to April and Jeremy, to all of you. Another good show in the books on Evangelicalism. Is that all we do?
I think that's it. Love God, love people passionately. No strings attached. We love you guys.
Good night, everybody.